Hi guys, it's me ChazRHD and welcome tonight to the race review for the 2021 Styrian Grand Prix, which of course took place earlier on at the Red Bull Ring, a very hot sunny day, of course, at the Red Bull Ring, and it was an interesting race. I mean, it wasn't formation flying, for the whole Grand Prix or anything. It wasn't quite what we hoped it was going to be, because, like I've said, most races at the Red Bull Ring, as I said, I think in the pre-race, during the race watch-along, most Red Bull Ring races do tend to be quite memorable and pretty good. This one, not that memorable, not bad, but nothing special. And like I said earlier, just a bang average 5 out of 10 Grand Prix. But like I said, there were some interesting things that occurred during the race. The midfield was a great battle really to watch during the race because it was constantly moving around. And we'll, of course, analyse that in a few moments' time. Also analyse the battle for victory. Not that there was really a battle for victory, but we'll try and analyse it as best as we can. But, after the race, hopefully you guys are doing well. And hopefully with me tonight, you will review the Grand Prix here. Sorry. Here in Austria. But before we get into the teams and the certain drivers and how they performed, let's first get into the official race results. Now, you can, of course, on the left-hand side, see the running order of how it finished, but let me show you this as well with the timings as well. So, Max Verstappen takes his third win at the Red Bull Ring. Lewis Hamilton second, 35 seconds behind. Yes, Hamilton did pit 2 times and only once did Max Verstappen come into the pits, but do remember, Verstappen was already 17 or 18 seconds ahead of Hamilton when Hamilton came into the pit. So Verstappen still would have beat Hamilton by a dominant margin today. Verstappen easily better in the car. But Hamilton was second and Bottas third, just about hanging on ahead of Sergio Perez. If there was one more lap, Sergio Perez definitely, I think, would have won, would have got the podium off of Valtteri Bottas, and then everyone else after that surprisingly was lapped. That's just how quick the front runners were today. Lando Norris, of course, finishing in 5th, 6th and 7th for Ferrari, showing me up to be an absolute fool, I have to say, thinking they wouldn't score points. Carlos Sainz in 6th, Charles Leclerc P7, Lance Stroll 8th, Fernando Alonso 9th, and Yuki Tsunoda in P10, and then the rest of the order of who finished but did not score any points. Raikkonen P11, Vettel P12, Ricciardo 13th, Ocon in 14th, Giovinazzi 15th, Schumacher 16th, Latifi 17th, and Mazepin 18th, and your only 2 retirements, Russell in the Williams and Pierre Gasly in the AlphaTauri. But let's first go on to the world champions. Not that they look much of it right now. Mercedes, who second and third, that's not a bad result. They've had a lot worse results here. The Red Bull Ring, I remember in 2018, they didn't even score points with any of their cars, and both cars retired from the 2018 race. And I even think 2019, they had a race that was worse than this. So it wasn't a bad day in terms of the result. The pace was definitely nowhere near good enough from Mercedes today. I have to say that. It was very poor compared to Red Bull, compared to, what Mercedes have shown to be capable of over a race distance in terms of their race pace. I thought their race pace today was very poor in comparison to, again, how it's been earlier in the season. So, but again, second and third, not that bad of a result, just not good enough to win the race compared to Max Verstappen in the Red Bull, who, as Nib said earlier, is just completely at one with his car to the point where Hamilton and Bottas and Mercedes have got to be at their absolute best and not make a single mistake to even have a prayer of beating him, which if that remains the case for the rest of the season, then it's going to prove to be very hard, honestly, to beat Max Verstappen to the World Championship, even though it is still pretty close, and Hamilton can definitely still come out on top. But yeah, Lewis Hamilton, he drove a good race. His pace in comparison to Verstappen wasn't good, but he drove a good race, did the best he could. got the fastest lap point in the end, which will be vital for him later in the season, I feel, in terms of possibly keeping him in contention for the championship if things do go a bit more towards Max Verstappen in the swing of things in the points there. But I do think those fastest lap points for Hamilton are very helpful for him. Like I said, though, I think the pace of the Mercedes car today is just simply not good enough for Valtteri Bottas. 3rd place, that's pretty much the best he could do today. He probably wasn't going to finish in 3rd place, again, if there was another lap or two, because Sergio Perez was incredibly quick towards the end of the Grand Prix on that fresher and softer compound of tyre. So you could argue he was a bit lucky to finish in 3rd, to be honest, but he was also pretty quick this weekend, and I think definitely deserved to be in that top 3 for Mercedes. But going forward, of course, the next Grand Prix is at the same circuit, and given how they were a quarter of a second behind in qualifying, yesterday, which around the Red Bull ring is quite a lot of time to be losing if you're in close, or supposed to be in a close battle with a rival. Again, a quarter of a second around this track is a lot to be losing. But in the race especially, Max Verstappen, on average during the Grand Prix, was a quarter of a second to even a 1/3 of a second quicker than Lewis Hamilton per lap, which is something we did not see coming into this Grand Prix. We thought Hamilton would be able to maybe equal it out in terms of the lap time difference, but Verstappen, like I said, was 2.5 to 3/10 of a second quicker per lap than Lewis Hamilton, really, during the Grand Prix, and simply couldn't get anywhere near Max Verstappen in Red Bull, and I don't see it being any different next weekend. The only thing that can stop Verstappen next weekend is if we have, say, some wet weather that could possibly favour Mercedes and Lewis Hamilton, because of course we saw last year at this track Hamilton putting in a great lap in the wet in qualifying to get pole position. If that was to happen again, then maybe Lewis Hamilton could finally gain points on Verstappen, because he hasn't gained any points on Verstappen since the Spanish Grand Prix, which I have to say feels a very long time ago. That was 7 or 8 weeks ago, that Grand Prix. We've had 4 races since then. So, yeah, the only thing I can see Verstappen being stopped by, again, wet weather, a really big mistake, which really doesn't look that likely from Verstappen at the moment, because around this circuit he does look very comfortable. And the only other thing I can think of really is a reliability issue, which, I mean, for either Verstappen or Hamilton, that is coming. One of those two, very soon enough, will have a reliability issue, because everybody does in either a qualifying session or a race. It's going to happen at some point. It's just when. That's what we need to kind of wait for. You never know. Could happen next weekend for Verstappen. Could happen for Hamilton next weekend. We'll have to see. But I think if Verstappen continues as he is next weekend, I just don't see how Mercedes can stop him, because I don't think Mercedes are going to gain a quarter of a second per lap around this circuit in a week. I mean, Nib was saying to me after the stream finished that, Mercedes might not be as poor next weekend as they were this weekend, because, they'll know where they maybe went wrong this weekend and they'll work on that, which I understand, but I just don't see how they're going to claim back all of that time to put themselves level pegging with Max Verstappen. I just don't see it, and I think they are firmly on the back foot for the race next weekend, and possibly even after that going into Silverstone, which of course is a power circuit and should suit the Red Bull car, that circuit, Silverstone of course. Talking on Max Verstappen, he was today clearly the best driver on the circuit. The driver of the day by an absolute mile, in my opinion. Was almost perfect in that car. relentlessly quick. Like I said, was pulling away from Hamilton on average during the race by 2.5 to 3 tenths of a second per lap. And Hamilton really, ever since their first lap, where Verstappen, built a 1 second lead, I think, over Lewis Hamilton, there was just no way that Lewis Hamilton was ever going to beat Max Verstappen today, because Verstappen was simply way too quick in that Red Bull car. Of course, the Red Bull car is working very well, the Red Bull ring, but also Max Verstappen, I think, really at one with the track as well. And also, like I've been saying, all of this weekend, it's a circuit where Verstappen has always been very, very strong. So, not a surprise, honestly, that Max Verstappen has won the Grand Prix this weekend. And going forward, he really should be winning next weekend as well. And if he does, and let's say he gets the fastest lap point as well, then he'll lead the championship by 25, 26 points, which would put him, I think, out of reach enough that if he did, say, have a retirement at the British Grand Prix, he would still lead the championship going into Hungary. So it is vital that Max Verstappen wins the next Grand Prix at the Red Bull Ring. And like I said, if nothing major happens in terms of a problem for him next weekend and the weather is pretty much the same, I don't see how Max Verstappen is not going to win. Just too good right now. And the Red Bull car, like I said, just way too good. And Verstappen, like I said today, was supreme. That was probably the best drive I've seen, maybe not this season from, say, any driver, but in terms of the two championship protagonists, I think that was the best drive of the season from Max Verstappen today in Austria, because he was just so quick and so relentless in his speed that nothing was going to stop him today. Absolutely nothing. For his teammate Sergio Perez, bit of an up-down race. He got ahead of Lando Norris eventually. He did lose way too much time behind Norris. If he was able to get ahead on that first lap, I do think Sergio Perez could have actually seriously challenged for second place in the Grand Prix with Lewis Hamilton, because I do think Perez would have had the pace to definitely be in the hunt there with Hamilton, because like I said, Hamilton simply today did not have the pace in that Mercedes to really compete with Red Bull. So I think cost himself not keeping himself ahead of Lando Norris. I will say Norris, the move he made around the outside at turn 4 was a great move. But Perez really, I think, had to make that position stick a lot better than he did. But after that, of course, eventually got ahead of Lando Norris. So did Bottas very quickly. Then when Perez pitted before Bottas, Perez had a poor pit stop, lost 2.5 seconds. Bottas, understandably, pitted a lap later and jumped Sergio Perez, and Perez was down to 4th. Perez did close the gap to Bottas, and it was close when they were both on the hard compound tyre. Then Perez pitted for a second time onto the medium compound tyre and was, like I said, only a lap away, really, from passing Bottas for 3rd place. But, I mean, if the pit stop for Red Bull had gone well and had been what, it normally is, then I think Perez would have maintained 3rd and would have finished 3rd in the Grand Prix today. I will say, though, I do think Sergio Perez, I don't think he helped himself today, because, again, he should have been getting rid of Lando Norris a lot quicker than he did. So I do think he should have been better there. But obviously the pit stop was a big problem for him. But for Red Bull, yet again, they gain points over Mercedes. They extend their lead in the Constructors' Championship. And right now, it doesn't really look that likely the Mercedes are going to beat them in the Constructors' Championship. So Red Bull looking very strong right now, and going into next weekend, again, without doubt, they are the favourites for victory. Now on to Ferrari, who, like I said, maybe looks like an absolute idiot with what they did today. 6th and 7th, Carlos Sainz, what a drive by him from P12 to P6 with a brilliant overcut that he did on the cars he was racing, such as Stroll, Alonso, Tsunoda, drivers like that. A brilliant race by him. And simply, he didn't really have to do anything in this race of, major note. I mean, he did pass, of course, Lance Stroll on track, which was always going to happen because he was on much fresher tyres at that point, was Carlos Sainz. But he, just went, longer into the race. The Ferrari had very good race pace, which is a very surprising thing to say, quite frankly. Then he pitted quite a bit later on compared to Stroll and Alonso. I think Sainz pitted, midway through the race, I think. I can't remember exactly, but he did pit, like I said, quite a bit after Alonso, Stroll, and drivers like that. Then passed Lance Stroll for what was at the time 6th place, and then finished in 6th. If he was, though, a bit closer to Lando Norris, say, at the start, then I think he might have been able, later on in the Grand Prix, to possibly beat him. But because he was just simply too far behind and in traffic, he lost too much time to Lando Norris, because his pace, actually, towards the end of the Grand Prix was really good, and it was able to possibly get after Lando Norris towards the end, but he ended up not being able to do so. But a great drive by Carlos Sainz, and a great drive by Charles Leclerc. Did cause his own issue at the start, breaking his front wing on Pierre Gasly's rear tyre. It was a poor mistake, which of course ruined Pierre Gasly's race. I don't think it was anything that should have been penalised, because it's just a typical lap 1 incident, and I don't really think you can penalise those types of things, because it's so marginal. What he did, pulling out the slipstream and just clipping the rear tyre there, is so marginal that I just don't think you can penalise that, because it's not really obvious enough to penalise, quite frankly. So I don't think he should have been penalised, but he definitely ruined Gasly's race. And in a funny way, he actually benefited his own race, because he then came in, put on the hard compound tyre, which was clearly the best tyre for the race, zoomed up to the back of that pack, fighting for points, overtook a lot of them, then pitted again for a set of mediums, and then again overtook a load more to finish in 7th place. And it actually got me thinking that I wouldn't be surprised, and just hear me out on this, but given how well, and obviously they didn't intend to do that, but given how well that strategy worked out, I wouldn't be surprised if they went for that again. Pitting really early onto the hard, and then pitting, say, later on onto the medium, because it worked out even better than what their strategy probably was going to be. And their strategy probably was going to be what Lance Stroll did. Soft to hard, pitting from the soft, say, lap 25 to 30, but probably would have ended up finishing down in 8th or 9th place rather than 7th. Maybe even lower, because, of course, the Ferrari straight line speed, not great, as we've seen this weekend. So, in a weird way, it kind of opened the door to possibly a new strategic gamble that, honestly, I don't understand why they wouldn't try that again, because it worked out so well for them. It meant they were on fresher tyres basically all of the time, and were on the best tyres basically all of the time. So, I know this might sound a bit ludicrous, but given how well it worked out, I wouldn't really mind, if I was Ferrari, going for that again, but on purpose. Say, pitting around lap 5, say if you start on the soft, and then getting onto a hard compound, doing, say, 30 laps, and then going on to the medium, and then again, you make sure that you're on the best tyres possible for the longest amount of time, and you're on the freshest tyres you can. It's a great strategy. Again, they didn't intend to do it, but it actually worked out really well, and in hindsight, they could actually take that and probably use that for next weekend, pitting early, and definitely something to take of note going forward, because you never know, you could see it again, maybe on purpose. But yeah, a good drive by Leclerc. I don't understand why he won driver of the day, because he did cause someone's race to to be over. So I don't quite understand that, but he was very good today. Just a shame that he had that issue, or else I probably would have given him driver of the day for the Grand Prix today. For McLaren and Lando Norris, yet again, a top 5 finish. This guy just a top 5 king, really, in 2021. He's still 4th in the Drivers' Championship, as I'll show you later on. And still ahead of Valtteri Bottas in the Mercedes, who honestly thought after, 8 races now in 2021, did anyone out there honestly think that Lando Norris was going to be 4th in the Drivers' Championship after 8 races? Just incredible. And he's not even that far off 3rd. He's only, I think, 10 points off. So, one bad race for Bottas and Perez, and Norris could be back into 3rd again. It's just quite incredible. It really is. But he is still driving at such a high level. Great drive. Did exactly what he needed to do. Another 5th place finish. Without him, I think McLaren would be very much struggling in that fight with Ferrari in the Constructors' Championship for 3rd and 4th place. For Daniel Ricciardo, though, I feel sorry for him, honestly, because he had a good start to the race. He went from 13th to 10th, was right behind the Williams of Russell, and was looking as though he was probably going to overtake Russell and get up into what at the time would have been, I think, 8th or 9th place. I think it was 8th place once Charles Leclerc pitted. So, looking good. I think he would have got past Russell very quickly. As we saw in the race, McLaren's race pace was still very good. They have the quickest car in a straight line this weekend, and they probably will next weekend as well, because I don't see why they're going to set the car up any differently next weekend, given how successful it worked for them this weekend. And I think, honestly, if Ricciardo did not have the issues he had with the car overheating and the reliability issues with his power unit, I think Ricciardo probably would have finished in 6th or 7th place, because his pace was very good and was on the medium compound tyre. He was ahead of Leclerc, head of Sainz at the time before that issue, began for him. I really do feel sorry for him, because I thought he drove well today, just didn't get any luck to go with that, which of course Australian drivers know nothing of when it comes to luck in Formula 1. Yeah, such a shame. McLaren probably did deserve to outscore Ferrari today, but their own reliability issues hampering them in the fight with Ferrari. But still a good weekend. I guess the only thing next weekend you could say is, for McLaren, in terms of what they need to improve on, is simply getting both cars into the points instead of just one. Because, of course, they were outscored by Ferrari today by 4 points. So, yeah, that's not great. Still a good day for McLaren, but could have been definitely better, I think, for them. And but yeah, Lando Norris, like I said, finishing in 5th. I thought that was a pretty good drive from him. Now we'll move on to the rest of the teams. Aston Martin, Lance Stroll, I have to say, I thought drove well today, finishing in 8th place. Was probably the best he could do, given the circumstances of the race. The Aston Martin, I have to say, wasn't as quick in the race as I thought it would be. Still pretty quick. Lance Stroll, I have to say, though, I thought did a good job. That's his... I'm trying to think how many points finishes he's had this season. I think that's his 5th points finish in 8 races. So Lance Stroll continuing the good season he has had so far. And yeah, scoring some good points for Aston Martin, outscoring Alpine and AlphaTauri today. So that is vital for the Constructors' Championship, of course, as they're all close together in that fight for 5th. But yeah, Stroll, I thought, did well. Wasn't spectacular, but did enough for the Aston Martin team. I got to say, though, I thought Sebastian Vettel, he didn't drive great today, but he wasn't really helped by his team. And the reason I say that is because his strategy, I think, was wrong for the race, because he pitted at the same time that Fernando Alonso did. Now, Alonso started on the soft. he'd already done 3 laps on in qualifying. Vettel started on a fresh set of medium tyres. I do not understand why they pitted Vettel when they did. They should have been going for the same strategy that they normally do go for, which is to go super long into the Grand Prix and to go longer than anyone else, which is basically what Carlos Sainz did, and look how it benefited him. I just don't get why they didn't do that with Vettel. I think they saw the pack ahead and thought, you know what, we can jump this slot with an undercut, which I understand, but they didn't think of the long game. They thought of the short game. And it just didn't work out. And he ended up falling away and barely finishing ahead of Ricciardo for 12th place. So I think was really fucked over by strategy there. Just not being good enough. And they need to stick with their guns, Aston Martin. Their strength when they have cars that start outside the top 10 is that they look after their tyres well and they're able to lap, in terms of their lap times, consistently well, despite being on quite, say, worn rubber. I don't understand why they didn't play into their strengths today and go, say, to lap 35, 40. I just don't get it at all. I really don't get it. And I think they made a massive mistake not going, say, longer into the Grand Prix than they did, because they just didn't have the tyre life in the end to really fight for points today. When, really, given how strong he was looking up until his first pit stop, he should have been finishing in the points, given, again, how strong he was looking, but it just wasn't to be. But again, I think really fucked over there by the strategy. Now, for AlphaTauri, a good day for Yuki Tsunoda. I won't say a good day for the team at all. I think for the team, they're very, very disappointed, I have to say. Because, you know, coming out of qualifying, rather, going into the race, of course, Gasly starting in 6th, Tsunoda P11. You would have expected with AlphaTauri to score at least 5 or 6 points from this Grand Prix. And they only came away, of course, with 1, which is simply not good enough. Like I said, Tsunoda, I thought he drove well. Given that he started on the soft compound tyre, the worn soft compound tyre from qualifying, and that he started in P11, I did think he would struggle to finish in the points, and I thought eventually he would fall away. But he didn't. His pace was good. The pace of the AlphaTauri was good. And I thought he did well and got a good point there for the AlphaTauri team, and as also for himself. A good drive from Tsunoda, but sadly, for his teammate, it just wasn't to be, with him being hit by Charles Leclerc on the rear tyre on the run between turn 1 and turn 3. And from then on, obviously, it was over for him in the Grand Prix. He sadly as well punted off Kimi Räikkönen, which I don't think he'll suffer any punishment for that, because he wasn't in control of his car, and there was no way really he could control his car when he was being swamped by cars left and right. So nothing really he could do. And I feel sorry for him, because I think he would have finished probably 6th or 7th in the Grand Prix today, because his pace all weekend was very, very good. But he didn't get a chance to show it, which is a shame. But AlphaTauri, at least, they do have next weekend at the same circuit where they can, say, get the finish in the race next weekend that they should have got here. So at least there is that. Now, for the final few teams, you've got Alpine, who Fernando Alonso P9. I thought Alonso honestly did the best he could. I don't think Alpine really had the pace of Aston Martin, Ferrari or McLaren really in the race today, and I think Alonso really did the best with what he has. I got to say, Fernando at the moment is really driving well, and I think he should be very happy with his own performance, because I can't really fault it at all. Esteban Ocon 14th, of course, started 17th. I can't really complain about that, because his qualifying, you know, was poor. Should have, of course, done better, but he didn't. So I can't really say that he should have done better in the race today, because of where he started the Grand Prix from. Again, all the way down in 17th position. But yeah, good points finish for Alonso, and they do gain a couple, or not a couple points, but just 1 point on AlphaTauri, who of course are in 5th. So at least there is that, and at least they are gaining points on someone ahead of them in the Constructors, which is really all you can ask for them, is to gain some sort of points on the cars ahead. But Alpine, really, I think next weekend they're in for a similar weekend where Alonso will probably be in the top 10, but Ocon will miss out, I think, in the end. Alfa Romeo. Kimi Räikkönen drives me fucking insane because in qualifying, he is one of the worst drivers on the grid right now. His performances are dire in qualifying. But over a race distance, he's so good. He gains so many positions every Grand Prix. Today, he went from P18 to P11 and was only 3 seconds off a point. If only he could qualify well. If only he could qualify well, then he would actually get a good points finish because he's got the race pace. He's very kind on his tyres, very consistent. He's still clearly got it. It's just over a single lap. He has seemingly no confidence, but also just no rhythm when it comes to qualifying. And that's really hampering his performance, because if he had qualified in the positions where Giovinazzi had qualified this season, Raikkonen probably would have had 2 or 3 more points finishes, because his race pace has been superb. But he just cannot qualify well to save his life, and I don't see it being any different in a week's time. Hopefully it is, but I don't see it being any different at all. Just please, Kimi, get it right in qualifying, please, because if you do, you will be rewarded without doubt. And of course, Giovinazzi 15th. Can't really say any different for him. Giovinazzi simply doesn't have the race pace. Of course, does have the qualifying pace. He's basically the opposite of Kimi Räikkönen. Just not as good, obviously. But, yeah, 15th. Not really a surprise, is it? But finally, for the Williams team. Wow, what a shame. What a shame. From the Grand Prix. George Russell, for a long period, running in 8th place, right behind the Alpine of Fernando Alonso, looked as though, honestly, he had the pace to possibly overtake Fernando Alonso and maybe get up to 7th. And it's hard to say whether he would have finished in the points because, you know, you had Leclerc come through, Sainz come through, and of course they were behind him at the time, so hard to say. But I think he would have ended up nicking at least a point in the Grand Prix. And when he came to his first pit stop, it was looking very good. And then he has his issue. The pneumatic valves needed, or the pneumatic system rather, needed filling up. And they tried to do that at the pit stop. His pit stop was 18 seconds, when normally it should be 2.5 to 3. Which cost him massively, and then continued to have engine issues, and then retired, obviously, from the Grand Prix. I feel so sorry for the guy. Now, there has been races in the past, of course, where he has caused his own, say, failure to score points. You know, Imola in, this year, I think definitely played a factor in what happened there. Also, 2020, with a really dumb mistake. Also, Mugello in 2020. Very poor start on the 3rd restart there, which led to him not getting a point when really he deserved to get a points finish at that race. But if you look at, this particular, say, example, and say, go back to the Sakir Grand Prix of 2020, where of course he was thrown in the Mercedes because Lewis Hamilton tested positive for COVID, there, leading the race in his first ever race for Mercedes. Such an impressive performance. Was looking phenomenal. And then things out of his control end up fucking the guy over. I just feel so sorry for the guy. And honestly, after today, I don't think he will ever score points for Williams. I just don't see it happening because the guy simply cannot, one, get enough luck for that to happen, but also in other aspects, when he does get into a points-paying position, I think it gets to the point with him where he's not used to being in that position and sometimes can make a couple silly mistakes. And I just don't think he'll ever do it because, again, it just seems with Russell that there will always be something that will go wrong. I really hope that doesn't follow him for his whole career and he turns out to be a Mark Webber or someone like that. Or say what Kimi Räikkönen was, say, back in 2005, where it was just engine failure after engine failure. I really hope it doesn't turn out to be something like that for Russell in his career, where the pace is there. He's always, looking very quick and looking very great, but he just doesn't have the luck to go with it. I really hope that's not the career that Russell is in for, but that's the career he's had so far in Formula One. The only thing he can do to change that is really to consistently get back into these positions where he can be running in a points-paying position, and then eventually he will get a point. But the problem is, in that Williams, there's no real chance of consistently running in a points-paying position to the point where eventually you will get, some luck and you will get a point. I mean, next weekend at the Red Bull Ring, he could definitely do it again. Hopefully he gets a point, but I don't think it will happen. But he's simply not in a good enough car, really, to get enough chances, I believe, to eventually get a point in the Williams. Such a shame. I really feel sorry for the guy. He deserves better than what he had today, because his drive was great. And if he did finish in the points, I think he would have been probably driver of the day. If not driver of the day, then definitely second. He was that good up until that problem. Of course, Nicholas Latifi had a puncture rather, which caused him to go almost a lap down on the entire field. And I have to say, his pace was quite impressive because he did end up actually beating Mazepin still in the race. I mean, Mazepin was poor, as we saw through the race, and seemingly had no idea what a blue flag was. But Latifi's pace was quite impressive still coming back through the field to reclaim that on the Haas's. So I think Latifi also, his pace has been pretty decent this weekend. But again, I feel so sorry for Russell. He deserves a lot more, again, than what he got. But as we now come to the end of this stream, I am just going to read out the championship standings, and then we'll come to the end here for the race review. So let me first go into the top 10 in the Drivers' Championship standings. So Max Verstappen leads now by 18 points, and as I said, if he wins the Grand Prix next weekend and gets the fastest lap, then he'll have enough of a gap over Lewis Hamilton to still be in the lead of the championship, even if he was to retire, or have a retirement rather, from the British Grand Prix, which would be a good position for him to be in going into that Grand Prix with a lot less pressure on his shoulders than, say, there is now. Yeah, leading by 18 points at the moment. Lewis Hamilton second. Work to do to get back at Verstappen. Sergio Perez third. Lando Norris fourth. Valtteri Bottas in fifth. Charles Leclerc is, I think, back into sixth, or possibly he was sixth, but it was very close to his teammate. Carlos Sainz, of course, is P7. Pierre Gasly is still in 8th place, and then Daniel Ricciardo is 9th, and Sebastian Vettel is in 10th place. Got to say, Carlos Sainz, I have to say, has been a lot better at Ferrari than people have given him credit for. Yes, he has struggled at times in qualifying, but he's getting there. I mean, he's out-qualified Leclerc twice in the first 8 races, which is maybe not as great as he was hoping for, but it's not terrible at all. I mean, it's nowhere near as bad as others on the grid and their qualifying records compared to their very good teammates. But in the races, Sainz has been, I think, good. I think he's driven well. I mean, he beat Leclerc in, of course, France, beat him here in Austria. So, and of course, Monaco, he beat him there. And I know Leclerc had his issue, but he did cause that issue for himself by crashing in qualifying. So it was really Charles Leclerc's fault as to why he didn't start the Monaco Grand Prix. And I do think Leclerc is starting to be caught a bit by Sainz in that battle. I think Carlos Sainz is starting to get on top of that Ferrari car because, like I said, the last 2 races, Carlos Sainz has finished ahead of Leclerc. And sadly, just like last week, I don't have a constructors standings graphic, but I can read it out to you as to what the standings are. So Red Bull are leading the Constructors' World Championship by 40 points from Mercedes in second. McLaren are third on 120 points. Ferrari are fourth at 108, so of course 12 points behind. AlphaTauri are fifth on 46 points. Aston Martin have closed the gap now to just 2 points. It's now Aston Martin on 44, and again AlphaTauri on 46. Alpine are 7th on 31 points, about 15 points behind AlphaTauri. Alfa Romeo are 8th, Williams are 9th, and again Haas F1 are of course in 10th position. But there you go, guys. That has been the 2021 Styrian Grand Prix race review, and that has been the Styrian Grand Prix weekend here at the Red Bull Ring. And of course, we get to do it all over again in a week's time for pretty much the same Grand Prix, just with a different name. Now, I just want to let you guys know that the schedule for next weekend will be exactly the same. So I'll be live next on the channel on Thursday night at 7 PM UK time for the preview for the Austrian Grand Prix. Then I'll be live again 10:45 AM UK time for the Practice 3 watch-along for the Austrian Grand Prix. Then live again for the qualifying watch-along at 1:30 PM UK time on the Saturday. And then live, just like today, 3 times. The first one will be at 11 AM UK time for the race preview. Then live with Nib at for the race watch-along at 1:30 PM UK time. And then live again, just like tonight, at 7 PM UK time for the race review. So the exact same schedule, and I am looking forward to it. Also, just to update you guys, I am continuing to work on videos for the summer break. I have, though, dropped a bit of the ambition I had. I was hoping to get 5 videos out during the summer break. I'm going to try and just concentrate on getting 3 out, say once a week during that summer break, because I do tend to get ahead of myself and think I can do more than I actually can, and I have the time to. So I'm going to try and get out 3 videos for you guys and then continue to work on the other ones and then possibly upload those maybe during the second half of the season. But I'm definitely going to be uploading, hopefully, 3 videos, recorded videos during the summer break, because there are 3 full weeks in the summer break where there are no races. So I'll try to fill those weeks with content for you guys. But it won't be a guarantee. I have to make that clear. It's not an absolute guarantee that I will be uploading. I'm just going to try my best to. I'm actually, next week, I'm going to be editing a video which I hope to get done by, say, 10 days time. Well, maybe not 10 days time, but say 8 or 9 days from now. I'm hoping to get the first of those videos done for the summer break. There's another video which I'm going to do and probably do right before the summer break, which will probably be the first one to come out during the summer break. And then there's another one which I am working on as well, which I will probably upload. If I can do this during the summer break, then I will, but it's probably going to be one of those that I upload during the second half of the season that is not quite ready yet for release. And then there's another one which I haven't started work on yet, but I probably will upload during the summer break. So there is content coming, guys. And my aim, really, especially with the winter break coming later this season, my aim for the channel going forward is to have at least 1 video on the channel per week. So if it's not a race week, I want to have, 1 video there for you guys saying going forward. If I can't do that, then so be it, but that is the aim, and I'm going to at least try to do that. If I can't do it, then, that's just the way it is. I do have quite a busy life, because, of course, I do actually work a job now where I do, 20 hours a week, so I don't have as much time as I used to, but I am, when I do get the time, I am using it, I think, a lot better than I was. But, yeah, that's what's coming up on the channel. And, yeah, thank you guys for coming along this weekend and for this stream as well, and hopefully we'll see you guys for the Austrian Grand Prix weekend next weekend. Don't forget to subscribe to the channel, bottom right of the screen. You can do it right there, or go to my channel page and do it then. Hit the notifications bell for more content like this and the content I've just laid out that I'm going to be doing. Don't forget as well to smash the like button and share this video and channel everywhere you can as well. Don't forget to join the Discord server, link below in the description. That's the best place for notifications of my videos and streams. And also, we have almost 500 people on that server, and it's pretty active, and it'd be great, it really would, to have you along in that server. So hopefully you can join our ever-growing community here on this channel. But guys, until the 2021 Austrian Grand Prix preview that I'm going to be doing on Thursday night, again, live at 7 PM UK time, guys, it has been me, Chazza HD. Goodbye.